I was surprised, but when they called, I kind of pulled the phone away, making sure it wasn't a joke. And when Kevin called and said, but yeah, it's exciting. Really grateful. Yeah, I couldn't be more appreciative of the opportunity. And I'm being honest with you, I can't remember any matches that I won. I only remember matches that I lost. The tendency is guys, girls, anyone who competes one-on-one, you're all training pretty hard to do what you're doing. And you're all pretty athletic to some degree. I think the real distinction is how your mental toughness. And I even teach my kids this, there's really two levels of mental toughness. There's that one side where when it hurts and you're getting exhausted and you want to quit, but you're able to push through. Like that's a certain level of mental toughness. And again, with wrestlers, that's normal. That's pretty much a normal attribute for a good wrestler. But the other one, the capacity to think rightly at the right time, keeping your mind focused on the right things at the right time, that's another level of mental toughness. And that's probably where my biggest struggle was, being able to stay focused and wrestle well. When I was doing that, when I was wrestling focused, I feel like I could wrestle with anybody. But it's work. It's really hard for some guys, and those guys who are world champs constantly, multiple national champs, those guys seem to figure it out. They kind of crack the code to some degree. So when I say I really don't remember much of the ones I won, but every match I lost, I was cognitive. I was involved. I was engaged. You know what I mean? My brain was thinking, whereas it should have been reacting. I came from nothing. I was almost done. My story is like Liberty gave me a chance. If it wasn't for Liberty, I would have never been able to do what I did. So I was on my way out. Like if this opportunity wouldn't have provided itself, I may not even gotten a college degree. I know that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been able. So it was. I just worked out that one coach calls Coach Schuler and lets him know that I'm who I am, and Schuler invites me down, and I got connected to him, and something happened. I mean, you can even see with my record that year, there were still elements where I was struggling, but once we got towards the end of the year, I started beating everybody, and I just got on this roll. And like I said, it's hard to even imagine that it worked out the way it did. It was chaos. I don't know how much time we have, so I want to be sensitive to the time, but that's where the story really takes off. I grew up in a what I would say very tumultuous kind of home life. And my dad and I are close to this day, but when I was growing up, and I was the oldest of 4 boys, he was alcoholic, and it was, it was intense. It wasn't just that he drank a lot and everyone was, dealing with his addiction. It was, there was times where there was abuse, and it was difficult. So physical, like not, just, beating around, that kind of thing. So that was what I grew up in, and there was an impact for me that was, it was hard as a kid to kind of overcome at times. But the crazy thing is he became a believer when I was 14, and overnight, transformed. From the time he became a believer, never drank again, never did drugs again. Things changed. But it's hard for me. I don't know why. It's just hard because there was a part where I wanted him to be forgiven. That's wonderful, you know. But then me and my mom and my brothers, we had all this brokenness that we had to deal with. And so there was probably a bitterness for me. So that got in the way. And so it affected everything from that point on. And so it wasn't like smooth sailing, you know. So I struggled and I started making bad choices, which is so dumb, so ironic that I see my dad making this choice. You'd think it would be one that would catapult us all towards like healthy and being whole, but it sent me in a different direction, and I went the opposite way. I started making bad choices. And the crazy thing is all I ever really wanted to be is, you know, I wanted to wrestle in high school, but I wanted to go into college and wrestle. So one thing led to another. That's what I wanted to do, and before I know it, I find myself in the Marine Corps, a sniper in the Marine Corps in Beirut, Lebanon, in the middle of a war zone, you know. So, and literally I'm on top of a building with a sniper rifle, you know, watching out over the city and have, you know, certain responsibilities, and thinking, and I would think I was like 18 years old, and finally said to the Lord, you know, God, I wanted to go there. I wanted to be a college wrestler, and I wanted to be, you know, get a degree. That's where I was going. That's what I wanted to do, and I'm here. So if this is what it looks like when I'm in control, like I want to go, it's like I want to go south but I ended up north. Like if that's what it looks like when I'm in control, I don't want to be in control anymore. Like I'm done. And it was on that building in the middle of Beirut, Lebanon, with a sniper rifle in my hand. You know, I basically asked God to forgive me for my arrogance, my pride, and my desire to run my own life. And I gave him my life and asked him to forgive me of that sin. And yeah, something clearly happened at that moment, supernatural, and that's when kind of like almost that whole 180-degree thing started taking place. Not just in better choices, but before I knew it, I ended up coming back from Beirut, and I get out of the Marine Corps, and I go back to the school that had recruited me out of high school. I go there, and the coach there is really, at the time, I think Lock Haven was the name of the school. They were top 25 in the country. They were a good program. And so the coach has me come back, and he promised me verbally, he said, look, if you come here, we'll cover your room and board. You just, with your GI Bill, you cover your tuition. And I said, yeah, it's fine. Sounds like a deal. So I get there, I arrive, and he decides to renege on the deal. He's not going to do the deal. And we have this conversation. I'm sitting in his office, and he asked me this question. He said, Warren, do you really want to be here? And I said, Coach, I think I want to be anywhere else but here right now. And he goes, have you ever heard of Liberty University? And I said, yeah. I just came from my dad's house, but they're already started. I was watching the Old Time Gospel Hour Sunday morning, and Dr. Falwell was talking to, he brought the football team up on the stage, and he was saying how they'd been in school session. They'd been in school for two weeks already. And I said, there's no way, they've already started, And he said, well, let me see what I can do. And so he calls down here and calls Coach Schuler. And Schuler said, send him down, we'll try to get him in. So I drive through the night, and from Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, down to Lynchburg, and come to register, and they're like, we can't take you in. We've already started. And so I said, all I know is I'm supposed to talk to Coach Schuler. So I sit in an office in admissions. I sit there all day, and they have meetings I don't even know about. And Coach Schuler finally is in one of these meetings. He said, let's give the guy a chance. Let's just give him a shot. if he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. But if he makes it, I think it's going to be good. And
so he took a chance on you.
Yeah, and which up to that point, really no one had, you know. So, I finally signed saying, yeah, I'm coming to Liberty and all that. And I'm walking to the car, and I have this thought. I was like, I just jumped out of the frying pan into the fire. Like I was struggling. I had this confrontation with the coach in Lock Haven, and that's an in-state public school, and it was over money that I wouldn't have been able to afford it in that situation. So here I am in out-of-state private school. How am I going to afford this? And I'm having this thought at that moment, not before I drive. I'm having it at that moment, and just as I have the thought, my hand is on the car door to open the car, and Schuler's getting in his car, and he looks over at me and says, "Oh, you have Stewart, by the way, when you go through admissions or financial aid, you tell me you got a full scholarship." And I mean, that changed that was massive. I mean, the fact that just a year or so prior, I found myself completely lost, completely opposite of anywhere I wanted to be. And I make that decision to follow Christ, and here this coach is saying, you got a full ride. Like, it was, mind-blowing, So, and after that, then once I got to know him, and once I got to connect with some of the people here, it was a perfect fit for me. It was obviously it was what God wanted for me. And it was huge. So as the year progressed, and as really under Schuler's tutelage, but really just being here and just having the freedom in Christ that I'd never experienced before, it was like I was wrestling more free than I'd never wrestled before, And that was the funnest year. It was just, the whole year was fun, just because I could feel it. I just could feel it getting better every match, every round. And by the end of the year, we were peaking, obviously, But yeah, so that was, so when I won, and I look over at Schuler, and I run into his arms, and I wrestle. I don't play basketball, so I don't have jumps. But when I jumped so high, I almost went over top of him. But that's just how I felt. I just felt so light and so ecstatic, that God's grace allowed me to go from carrying a sniper rifle in Beirut, Lebanon, to living out my dream, in a place like this, Liberty University. I'm in ministry full time. I work for an organization. It's called International Christian Response, ICR. And our main focus is to come alongside Indigenous workers, support them the best that we can with finances, training, equipping as much as possible. And primarily in places where it's really, really, really difficult, where, primarily Muslim countries. So I spend time here, but I also spend probably 2/3 of my time abroad. But the time I focus here is winter, because all my kids wrestle, and so from November till March, I try to stay here on this side. Then in the spring, I'll go back and forth again. Man, I can't even, the list is too long. What God did here for me, again, if it wasn't for the Liberty, but also the people here, and for this opportunity, I don't know where I'd be. I really don't. I don't want to be too dramatic, but this was a life-changing moment for me. It was the true 180. Like, everything changed here for me, and I'll be forever grateful. Coach Schuler is if not the best, one of my best friends, and if not the best friend. And it's largely because I can't detach from him because of the gratitude I have. And I feel the same about Liberty. I will always think about Liberty with incredible fondness and gratitude, because I don't know where I'd be without what my experience was like here. And obviously I feel that way about Christ. If it wasn't for God's grace, man, I was hurting. I was hurting, and I was in trouble. So yeah, the list goes on and on. There was incredible teaching, and honestly, and I'm sure people know this, but I think one of Dr. Falwell's one of the things that, there's some things that are taught, and then there's certain things that are caught. I'd say the thing that I caught from Dr. Falwell was his commitment to prayer, like his devotion to prayer, and to fasting and prayer, and seeing breakthrough through fasting. Like, I'd say there's some teaching that we learned that have been life-changing, but there's also that stuff that we've been caught. And we and I would say our lead foot in any ministry that we do is all really setting foundation for prayer, creating, doing what we need to do to, destroy those strongholds before we even set foot in the active part of the ministry. So, and I would say that's something that was caught here, that was something that Dr. Falwell lived by, and it's something that we picked up.